Waste is ultimately a human design flaw. Waste doesn't exist in nature. 40% at least of food that is produced around the world today never gets eaten. And this is while 2 billion people are experiencing moderate to severe food insecurity. So this is something that I call a ridiculous food system problem. And for me, it's why I'm very passionate in looking at frameworks on how we can design waste out of our food system. So what we have today is a linear food system. We extract non-renewable inputs to produce food and then transform it and then ultimately waste. So we have this take, make, waste model, which is quite linear and is frankly a process that doesn't exist in nature. This idea of an end of life of products that just goes to waste. So it's not just food that's getting wasted, it's all of the resources that go into producing, harvesting, transporting, consuming, all of those, water, energy, labor, money, time. It's a lot of waste. And so this concept of a circular economy and circularity as a framework for sustainable food systems is very interesting to me because it is essentially designing waste out of all the stages of the food system. A circular economy for food or a circular food system would ensure that waste is eventually eliminated. For us to think about waste differently, it's going to take a big sort of cultural change. Chefs are positioned really interestingly in the food system as connectors between producers and consumers. And when I talk about chefs, I'm talking about any skilled professional who is transforming food for consumption outside of the home. They are able to influence both the upstream of the food system, so producers, and in what they are actually sourcing. And they also have the ability to influence us consumers on what is our normative perception of waste. We don't consider certain things waste that are waste. And if we can think about pieces of a fruit or vegetable that we don't normally eat, but it's been transformed in such a way that is delicious by a skilled professional, that's something that slowly sort of seeps into the culture. That is where the lasting and sustainable change comes from. Their skill set allows them to use food in ways that we don't necessarily think about. So a whole ingredient utilization, things like eating carrot tops and parts of the animal like offal that we don't regularly eat because they've got the skill and know how to transform them, are actually able to use more of ingredients. A lot of times they're not thinking about what they're doing as reducing waste, but there's so many ways in which they're innovating and inherently reducing waste. So many things that they're doing just anyway in their kitchens that are these circular practices, which are really interesting to understand what chefs are actually doing and how they think about what it is that they're doing and how that contributes to more sustainable practices that are transferred to other chefs, that people like you and I, when we're going into a restaurant, notice that these things are happening. How are they communicating what they're doing in terms of their circular practices to the consumer? How are consumers understanding and experiencing those circular practices is really what's so powerful, I think, that chefs have this ability to do.